Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Publicly Buzz proudly brings to you Thursday Night Murder Church. Phil Spector, 3 times in 1 week. Werner Spitz versus Alan Jackson, still hot and heavy. If you've not seen any of the previous 4 episodes, maybe 5, it's been hot, it's been heavy. Give this a share, give it a like, do all the things. Tickle it, give it a tickle. Let's hang out for a little bit.
Let's rock.
We have made it. We've made it to Thursday. What's up, everybody? Get the hell in here. We're doing it. We're doing a murder church on a Thursday, but a Phil Spector murder church. You never know when a murder church will actually come along now, but Thursday night is usually not a Phil Spector night, I'll tell you that. So, but I'm into this trial. Hopefully everybody else is as well, especially into this particular witness, Werner Spitz. It's been interesting, an interesting back and forth between, of course, Alan Jackson from Karen Reed. Most people know him. People getting in here. Let me see who's in here rotting now. Pammy's coming through. We got some folks working and lurking. Appreciate it, Michelle and Afton doing the thing. Appreciate it. Got a Meowder Church sticker in there. Love it. Laura's in here. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Love to see it. Hell yeah, Steve, I got my keychain today. Thank you so much for that. And the bonus stickers and magnets. Hell yes. And yeah, stuff is always going out, folks. We also have a wheel spin already ready from Tuesday night. I'll be doing that tonight. But yeah, anybody that would like to get on a new wheel, we'll be giving away some more goodies, some more cool stuff here from Publicly Buzz. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all of that stuff is wide open. Of course, if you become a member, you will also get yourself into the book club. So why would you not want to do that? Tuesday's book club was awesome. Of course, we're up to episode 3 of the book club coming up the next Tuesday, but it's going to be chapters 3 and 4 of The Stranger Beside Me, Anne Rule, Ted Bundy book. Super interesting. Oasis Cat coming through here, Matilda coming through here. Hell yeah, love to see it, you fine folks. Yeah, let's get in here and keep rocking and rolling. I don't even know if this is the last part. This is part 7 of Spit's testimony. We got a minute 6 here with him. So yeah, let's keep going. I'll get a wheel rocking and rolling here. First, let's get the bells going. Let's make sure these things are working properly. Oh yeah, they are. Here we are. Got the bells a going. Of course, don't forget tomorrow night, Feral Friday, brand new guest, Mo. Mo's been on here before, but she's never been on a Feral Friday. It's gonna be a fun one. We're gonna be watching a movie that she picked, Angus. I'm excited about it. I haven't seen it in a long time. Excuse me. Let's go. Let me get the sound in here though. It might work. My first beer. I've got another one up there.
What's in session?
All right. All parties are present. Jurors, alternates, and the witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Hell yeah.
Dr. Spitz, when
Hell
we
yeah, that's
last
good to
left
hear.
off, I was about to ask
Love
you
to
a
hear
couple of
that.
questions about the blood on Lana Clarkson's hands. You're aware that Jamie Lintamoot testified that the blood that she saw, she described the blood that she saw
She's
on
one
Lana
of
Clarkson's
my favorite
hands on the back
creators,
of her
just to be
wrist,
honest.
correct?
Yes.
All right. You agree with me, based on your understanding of just basic back spatter, although you're not an expert in back spatter, basic back spatter, that the spattered item has to be facing the source of the blood, correct?
Well, yes, I suppose so. Yes.
All right. So if the back of the wrists were described as being spattered, that would be consistent, for instance, with Lana Clarkson's hands being up somehow with the back of her wrists facing her mouth, correct?
Well, probably that is one of several ways in which you could have held her hands.
Okay. You also indicated that there was tissue on her sleeves, and that was one of the other physical items of evidence that you considered in determining that she pulled the trigger.
Hell yeah,
correct?
Pammy. Love that.
Yes.
You're aware that the tissue
I know where you're
on the
going
right
with that for a
sleeve
minute.
was
Made some
primarily
pasties
due
out
to
of them
flow,
things. I was like,
blood
hell yeah,
flow,
let's go.
correct?
That's how you roll on a Feral Friday. Put them on the nipples.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
I love it, Pammy.
I
Thank you,
don't,
man. Pammy's been so kind,
no,
so
but,
awesome.
okay.
Buzz
the-
Nation out here. In the
blood
streets, the
is blood,
G level.
and I'm talking about tissue.
Okay. The blood and tissue on the right sleeve was under a flow
Genie.
pattern, or in a flow pattern. You're aware of that, correct?
How does it misstate it?
Because there's testimony that that was separate from the blood.
Well, there's differing facts. The bottom line is there is often more than one set of testimony as to a given set of facts. Why don't you ask the questions assuming, and then it becomes a hypothetical, and then we don't have to worry about it, and then it just goes to the strength of the hypothetical. So with that in mind, restate the question.
Sure. I'll be happy to, Judge. Assuming that the blood and tissue from the on the right sleeve was from a flow event, that would not necessarily give us any insight into the actual gunshot itself, correct? If it was from after the gunshot flowing down the right sleeve.
If that is correct, what you are saying, then that is so.
Okay. Assuming that the tissue on the left sleeve, and specifically on the left buttons, and the left sleeve of the jacket, including part of the left lapel, soaking through to the left portion of the jacket, through to her slip dress, through to her pantyhose, and through to her underwear, is due to contamination after the event.
question.
In other words, some 12 or 14 hours after the gunshot, that tissue, if there was tissue, would not give us really any insight into the actual spattering event either, would it?
Any contamination is objectionable.
Okay.
And I understand that there was what is called purge when the body was turned over,
Right.
where a large amount of blood came out from the mouth.
That's what I'm referring to.
But I understand that. But I fail to understand how that would also contaminate the area with tissue.
Okay.
The way I reason is that there was tissue on both shoulders, and that blood contaminated the left shoulder subsequently.
GSR. You indicated that GSR was one of the physical items of evidence that you considered in making a determination that Lana Clarkson may have fired the weapon herself, correct?
Yes.
He's got nice hair.
There was an exhibit, and could I take just a second, Your Honor?
Yes.
Of course, Alan Jackson. Take all the seconds you need. Feels like, oh my God.
Did you use them that way? They didn't be that. Could I impose on y'all to, or actually we may have it, to pull up FF?
Yo, Tina, what's
If you
up?
have it.
I'm sorry.
Do you have FF, Jim, by chance?
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, while we have this moment, it just occurred to me, and I know you see it, and I hope you appreciate it, that even though this is obviously a very contested trial, that the attorneys, how professional they are, that they try to help each other with exhibits, because it serves everyone's interest in the end, and you don't see that in every trial, so I hope you appreciate how
Rosen's
good that
kind
is
of a
to see
cunt,
and,
but-
and how commendable the attorneys are for doing that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Maybe GG's the one with the
Hey, motherfucker. I'm telling you like it is, baby.
I'm telling you like it is, baby. What's up, Frog? CH. Beautiful people coming through here. Pokemon. What's up, everybody?
Could you hold on for just one second, Mr. Jackson? I just want to show something to someone.
Sorry, Mr. Jackson.
I just wanted you to take a quick look at, Doctor, the exhibit that you were shown yesterday, if you don't mind.
What does that mean?
This
What is that?
shows,
60?
there's a kind of a still photograph that shows GSR and some gun particle material coming out
son of a bitch 60?
revolver after it's been fired.
I couldn't hear.
This photograph, Defense GG, shows GSR and gunpowder material coming out of a revolver after it's been fired, or at the point at which it's being fired, correct?
Yes, that's out of my book.
Okay.
What you can buy here.
You're aware that
Let me just, while this is on the screen, point out to you that that the
Dixie,
white
got a crowd
streaks
coming
are
through.
on
That's what I'm
fire.
talking about.
Right.
Thank
That's
you.
why you see them.
I understand.
Get in
And
here.
they twirl
Busting
around
through that
and go in
door.
different directions.
I understand. Thank you. The cloud of
Yo,
smoke,
thanks
if
for
you
the
will,
shares.
goes all the way out of the frame of the picture. It's around here, but it also goes all the way back and out of the picture, correct? To the right.
Yes, but some of it is because the gun also moved
Right.
as a result of
Yosemite.
recoil.
Right. The hand that's
Brooklyn.
firing the weapon is in or beneath that entire
Everybody
cloud,
up in
correct?
there.
Right.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Also, there's a cloud in front of
Don't
the
forget,
hand.
tomorrow night, Phil
up
Friday's gonna
toward
be
the cylinder
banging.
area, correct?
Yes.
All right. The victim in this case, or Lana Clarkson in this case, was actually shot in the mouth with the barrel of a 2-inch revolver behind her teeth, correct?
Yes.
By definition, her face and the area surrounding her face would have GSR, correct?
Fuzzy
Because of its
Puff.
proximity to the fired weapon, correct?
Well, the gases that you see here on the picture, most of that would be inside the mouth.
There's a cylinder gap here, correct?
There's a cylinder gap, but most all that smoke there is not from the cylinder gap.
You indicated that, well, let me just ask it this way. There would be some GSR expected outside her mouth in the environment of the gunshot, correct?
Possibly, that depends.
That depends on how much you're paying me, bud.
Well,
How much
Some
you
guns
got,
have
Alan?
more, some guns have less.
I'm not talking hypothetically, I'm
Mr.
talking in this
Jackson?
case. And she had GSR on her hands.
She did have.
So by definition, there had to be some GSR
Yeah.
around the gun,
Well,
correct?
no doubt.
Okay. And that GSR forms a cloud. I mean, it's amorphous.
Yes, but not this amount
What'd you call
of,
me?
of
What'd you
of
call me? A
smoke.
Wattis?
It's not all from
Listen,
cylinder
bud.
gap.
That's not
Listen,
what I'm asking.
bud.
I'm just saying that there is some GSR that's going to be surrounding that gunfire, correct?
Yes.
All right. And for instance, in this photograph, you would expect that the frame of the weapon would have GSR on it, correct?
I don't know. I don't deal with it. I don't deal with where that would settle or how much of it would settle. Or no, I don't deal with examining firearms. I'm not a firearms examiner.
I understand that, but you're using GSR and the existence of GSR on Lana Clarkson's hands as a physical property to opine that she must have pulled the trigger, correct?
That is what I'm using in my opinion.
Okay.
but
Don't you
not
use my words against me, you
whether
son of a
the
bitch.
smoke coming out of the cylinder gap would be settling on this part or that part of the firearm.
Well, you're saying...
I don't know how much of this particular smoke in this picture with this firearm, which is, by the way, a .32 caliber ramshackle firearm. It's not a very good one. It's one of those that you call Saturday night specials. So I don't know how much leakage there is in this firearm, but it happened to be such that it's suitable for a textbook because of the abundance, but it's not one that I would use to say, this
shit,
is
bro.
all or most of it or 95% or 50% due to cylinder gap leakage.
I'm not
That's not
asking-
what I'm
Dude.
saying.
And I'm not asking you that, Doctor. We're getting off on a tangential road. I'm simply asking, would you expect the GSR that you see in this photograph, the gun is right in the middle of it. You'd expect the gun would have GSR on it, correct?
In this case, yes.
You would expect that his hand would have GSR on it, correct?
In this case, probably, yes.
You would expect that that looks like a bag, maybe a sandbag that he's
Yeah,
using
that is a
steady
sandbag.
weight. Okay. The sandbag will have GSR on it because this cloud
God,
will
I gotta get a
settle
new
down on
fucking
that,
marker.
correct? I mean, that's the nature of GSR, this amorphous cloud.
Marker is
It comes out
not
and then begins to settle, correct?
Yes.
All right, and it surrounds the area of the fired weapon, correct?
It's around the area of the weapon.
So in this,
It's around, sometimes it does more, sometimes it does less. That
In-
depends on the weapon.
Got you on this
in
one,
this
Matilda.
case, Doctor, if by definition the gun was fired inside Lana Clarkson's mouth, the area surrounding her mouth and that cloud, that amorphous cloud, would
Jen's all up on this
necessarily
one.
get
She was
GSR,
killing it on
correct?
Tuesday. Paying me up
Whereas
on this
that
son of a
is
bitch.
Probably so.
Tammy's gonna be hard to read. Remember yours is on purple.
I do not want to have said that I can tell you to what extent that does occur.
So if she had her hands up, for instance, as I have my hands, or if she had her hands on someone else's arm,
there we go. We got a fucking wheel
for
going
instance,
on right now, y'all.
who might be holding the gun in her mouth.
There we
that
go.
would, by
Get the hell in
definition,
here.
Put her hands in the environment of gunshot residue, wouldn't it?
Assume SPAC's not evidence.
Overrule. Well, that depends also to some extent, I would think.
I wish that
Again,
every
I'm not a firearms
fucking
expert.
witness and cross
Firearms
it was
examiner.
always the spicy.
Where on the hand the GSR is it on the front, is it on the back?
Got to ring the bell.
I would assume that that has some significance.
I assume that the GSR was
In this corner.
taken from all over from the back of both and the webbing area
true?
of both Lana Clarkson's right and left hands. That would be consistent with her hands, for instance, being up in a defensive position and getting GSR on them that way as well, correct?
Well, my immediate question would be, you showed me the back that it was taken. Was it taken from the front too? I would have to, in order to attribute...
Shit, that's what I'm talking about. Matilda coming through here. Matilda also, who I just called out on the wheel, gifting out a membership, which also means Kraken. You can now get your ass into the book club and join us on Tuesday nights after the regular show. Thank you so much, Matilda. I appreciate that.
Hey, motherfucker.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Significance to that, I would have to know what there was on both sides.
Well,
Let me
So
hear
the
your
fact that
body
there is
talk.
GSR on the back
Your body
is not
talk. Let
unexpected.
me hear your body talk. Your body talk. Let me see what we got in here. Oh, shit. Yep, I see that bad boy right now. Tiff coming through. $5 on the Cash App for the GSR testing. Hell yeah. Paying attention in the class. That's what I'm talking about. Hell yeah.
Son of a bitch! You gotta fight!
Boom, boom, for a ride to party. Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Tiff. Now we're already starting a new wheel. Matilda. Fuck yeah, Matilda and Tiff on the new wheel to start us out.
But is there GSR on the front? That would be unexpected.
Fuck yeah.
so you opined just a few minutes ago that the existence of GSR on her hands is one of the reasons that in your opinion, her finger was on the trigger, her thumb was on the trigger, yet you're telling this jury that you don't even know where the GSR was taken from her.
It is a bit squeaky. I've had this
But
thing
you're
for
bringing
so
up
many
another
years.
Theory to this case.
What-
You are showing me
She
this.
still does the
And I'm
damn
asking
thing,
you,
though.
is that consistent? If a GSR sample was taken from the webbing of her finger, thumb and forefinger, and on the back, and it showed GSR, that would be consistent with her having her hands up in the area of the fired gun, correct?
Only if you do a complete job. If you don't do a complete, if you only do half a job, it's consistent. But the other half
Hell
of
yeah.
the job maybe make it inconsistent.
Is it consistent or not with her hands being up in a defensive position?
It's consistent as long as you only do half the job.
I don't understand your answer. Explain what
Well,
you mean.
the answer is that in order to make it consistent, you would, if she is like that, you would want to know what the other side of the palm has.
But let's assume
Not
you
just
don't.
one side.
Let's assume you don't. In this
Well, if
case,
you don't,
let's assume
then
you
you
don't.
have examined only half the problem.
Okay. Is what you have consistent with her hands being in the environment of a gunshot, of a fired
The
weapon?
hands are, the finding would be consistent with the hands being in the proximity of
My
a
basement's
discharged
fucking.
weapon.
Thank you. And
So
the blood
cold.
on her hands
Like,
would
the
also
upstairs
be
feels
consistent.
good. It was like
The blood
70
on the
today,
back of the
but-
wrist would also be consistent with her hands
Underground's
being up,
still a bit
with the wrist
cold.
facing the source of blood,
They
correct?
don't have to be up. They could be just the way
Wee bit nipply.
said earlier, that she was holding the weapon with both her hands.
Show. I'm asking you, doctor, and you're not testifying as an advocate for
No,
one
I'm
side or the
not.
other.
Absolutely
I mean, you
not.
have no
Absolutely.
vested
Me?
interest in this case.
Me? Little old me? Huh? What are you acting like I got paid a bunch of money to be here for a certain somebody? Come on, I feel so
One way or
disrespected.
another, correct?
That's correct.
As a matter of fact, the $45,000 or $50,000 that you're making from Mr. Spector, that wouldn't sway your opinions or conclusions in this
$50,000
case
to
one way or
opine
the other,
about
ever.
bullshit.
I don't know where you got $50,000 from.
Well, you
You son of a bitch! We're back here again, you son of a bitch! You know how much it is! We talked about it before, it's probably even more than that! Jesus, fuck!
had 45,000 yesterday, and we're into a new day now. So I assume
Well,
that
thank
you
you
got
very
another
much. I'm
$5,000.
so
Yeah, he's also your accountant. You didn't know that Mr. Jackson could also do that, did ya? My God, Spitz. How about you spit it out, you son of a bitch, you old
I'm so
bastard?
grateful to you for being concerned with my income.
You're a hired gun.
Please remember, as I also said to you
You're a hired gun by fucking a mob lawyer, bro.
before, at this time of my life, I really
Might as well hold him
don't
up in the
care.
bathroom.
But you did not care enough to do it, for instance, pro bono.
Well, there are cases which I do pro bono.
Yeah, not this one, though.
No.
And we're worried about this
If I
testimony.
did all my cases pro bono, then I would have to go on public assistance,
All right,
maybe.
well-
But I don't. I do some cases pro bono. In fact, quite a good.
Let's
number.
calm down.
But I do.
This case,
We're getting off
this
we're
case,
getting
I
off
do not
topic
have to.
here.
All right. And what I'm asking you
I love
is,
that he
let's get
keeps
back to
going,
the
though.
point. What I'm asking you is the blood on the back of her wrists would also, the other explanation would be consistent with her
That's
hands
damn- you're
being
damn
out in a
right.
defensive posture.
You're damn right. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, next round of the night. Get it in here.
When that shot was fired.
It
Isn't that
would be
true?
consistent with the hand being in an area where there is blood spatter.
Thank you.
Dave,
Assume that the defendant
whew, we're getting it, baby.
had blood
It's
on...
8:30 here
Actually,
now.
I don't even have to
We're
ask
getting
you
into
to
the
assume it.
evening.
Let me
I got
just
a
ask
beer
you
crack.
open-ended. Are
I
you
done
aware,
had dinner.
or was there anything in
I
any of
cooked
the
dinner.
reports that you
Had some
read
pork
or any of the
chops.
crime scene
Shit.
photographs that you reviewed that suggested to you at any
of a
time
bitch.
that the defendant, while he was in the crime scene, while he was inside the foyer, had blood on his hands or was transferring blood around the crime scene?
I understand that is so.
Okay, and that comes from, and we'll make it a little faster if I can just kind of give you the question, and you can tell me if you agree with it. There was blood transfer from Mr. Spector on the doorknob, correct?
That's my understanding.
There was blood transfer
I
from
got
Mr.
an
Spector
Audi
on
at
the
a Diddy.
latch
Like,
bolt.
what about nipples is sort of an
On the what?
The
a did
latch
boy.
bolt, it's
The
the
ones
little
at
part
Audi.
that
They'll get
sticks
hard
out
as
of
a
the door.
rock.
I know.
Hold it
Yes.
close. There was blood transfer from Mr. Spector on the banister, correct?
That's correct.
Are you aware that when Mr. Spector was arrested, it was noted, or did you read the reports that indicated that, in fact, when he was arrested, he had no blood on his hands?
Yes,
All right.
that's my understanding.
Hit that
Although-
thing. Hit that
although,
thing if you haven't.
There is
Help us out.
No, that's all right.
What does that tell you about what happened to Mr. Spector's hands between the time he had blood on them and was transferring it through the house and the time he was arrested and had no blood on his hands? What does that tell you, Doctor?
Well, it tells me that the blood wasn't there. There was no blood on his hands when he was arrested.
And what does that tell you about what happened to his hands in the intervening minutes or time between when he had blood on his hands and when he didn't have blood on his hands?
Most probably that it was wiped off.
All right. You're aware
Yo, Missy.
that Mr. Spector retrieved a diaper at some point after Lana Clarkson was shot.
Yes,
You're aware that he wiped certain things down after Lana Clarkson was shot.
including, I don't know about certain things you say.
I'm just saying that there was, let me rephrase the question, maybe that was inartful. You're aware that Mr. Spector was responsible for transferring blood onto the diaper.
Yes. Well, I don't know. Yes, that's correct, actually.
All right. You're aware that the diaper was wetted at some point prior to the police getting there.
Yes,
All right. And the diaper included both dilute and clotted blood.
right.
All right. What does that tell you about Mr. Spector's hands insofar as being wet or staying dry the entire time?
It really doesn't tell me very much. It tells me that he probably used the diaper to wipe Miss Clarkson's face, and that possibly either used the diaper or used something else to wipe his hand clear of the blood that it had stained.
Answer that one
Doctor,
carefully.
You're also aware that, based on certain police reports, that Mr. Spector was putting his hands in and out of his pockets, correct?
Yes.
And at some point, there was some transfer of Lana Clarkson's blood into one or the other of his pockets. Okay. And you're also aware that there was a 40-minute time lapse between the fatal shot being fired and when the police actually secured Mr. Spector and basically secured his hands.
I understand that there was a lapse of time. I did not know it was 40 minutes.
I've been enthralled by this right here with Spitz now.
Let me ask you if you agree with the following.
I turned on him. He turned heel on me. Son of a bitch.
The following statement. The presence of GSR does not prove someone fired a gun. The absence of GSR does not prove they did not. There are too many factors. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
In and of itself, that's correct, but it has to be taken into context with other factors.
As a matter of fact, Doctor, I'm going to give you a little credit here. Where does that statement that I just read come from?
Well, it probably comes out of my book.
All right. It comes directly out of your book, correct?
I don't know if directly or indirectly, but it comes out of my book.
Page, I've looked at it so many times, page 687. How do you like that for a memory?
I think that's great.
Yeah, if nothing else, Doc, you've sold another couple books in this case.
Well, I'm so pleased that I got $2.50 from each.
Oh, my God.
You need to talk to your publisher. All right. Do you know
I think
who
you'll be
Lucian
okay.
Haig is?
I'm sorry?
Lucian Haig, H-A-A-G.
No.
He goes by Luke Haig?
No.
Okay. You're not aware that he is actually a defense expert that's been hired in this case?
Sustained.
I'll,
And that's stricken. The jury's admonished to disregard it.
you're aware that he is, in fact, a GSR expert. He's a criminalist.
I have never heard the name. I'm sorry.
I quoted you for a second. I'm going to ask you if you agree or disagree with this particular quote. Quote, a positive finding of GSR.
He has offered some opinions on GSR, and this is just a quote, whether he agrees with this, whatever, whoever it comes from, whether he agrees with a proposition. All right?
Do you agree or disagree with this quote? And it's going to sound somewhat similar to your own. Quote, a positive finding of GSR/primer residue does not distinguish a murder from a suicide. Conversely, a negative finding, particularly in a living individual, does not exclude a subject as having fired a gun, end quote. Do you agree or disagree generally with that statement?
Yeah, generally I agree.
Okay. Let's move on to something that you mentioned yesterday, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, Doctor. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on it. You indicated that you took note of Lana Clarkson's right thumbnail in the chip.
Where is it? I'm going to pull this over here because this is crazy. Who tagged me in this? Tony Bailey on X tagged me in this, and this will be the first time I'm reading this. This sounds insane. I'm going to do it live. Let me get Spector off here, just in case I want to use this. All right. Oh, where'd my keyboard go? Oh, it's running away. Hold on. Lawsuit accuses budding serial killer of killing. What does budding mean? What does budding serial killer? Of killing eating patients at South Carolina mental health facility. This is today. South Carolina, this case against a South Carolina mental health facility where a man is accused of murdering and cannibalizing patients could be heading to trial. Holy shit, this sounds nuts. A lawsuit filed by the family of a 22-year-old Jared Andrea claims Richland County's New Hope Home Solutions facility owner Brittany Reynolds Jackson and the South Carolina Department of Mental Health are responsible for his death. According to documents, Andrea suffered from mental disabilities, and it was recommended that he be placed in an assisted living facility. In 2023, his grandmother Peggy placed him in a New Hope's Harper Street facility, which had been recommended by the South Carolina Mental Health facility. The goal was for Andrea to learn independent living and socialization skills. On March 20th, 2023, Andrea was picked up for a visit by his grandmother. Documents state she noticed bruising on his neck and face, but he did not disclose the cause of the bruises. He also appeared to be unkempt. His hair was not combed. His clothes were dirty, and his nails were long and dirty, which contradicted the facility's promise to help him learn independent living skills. Andrea was dropped off at the facility later that evening, the last time his family saw him alive. When his grandfather arrived to pick him up for an appointment 2 days later, he did not show. The next day, the facility called to let his grandmother know that he had been missing since the night he was dropped off. Staff was reportedly alert to his disappearance. Another patient who told them they should be alarmed that Jared was missing. That patient was Mark Anthony Cantrell, who had a violent history, which included multiple instances of animal cruelty and arson to cover up killings of his family dogs. He was interviewed during the search for Andrea and repeatedly displayed strange behavior that was reported to law enforcement. Months after Andrea's disappearance, another resident went missing. This time, Cantrell was caught on video removing that victim's body from the facility. When interviewed, he confessed to killing and told police that he also killed Andrea, providing specific graphic details as to how the murder was conducted. Cantrell reportedly told police that he was compelled to his altered personality to kill the victims and consume parts of their bodies so he could gain their power. Holy fuck. While Andrea's body was never found, an autopsy of the second victim was consistent with Cantrell's description of the killing. A grand jury indicted Cantrell for both killings. Those charges are still pending. The lawsuit brought by Andrea's family blames the facility and the mental health facility for allowing what they described as a budding serial killer to be placed in a home with vulnerable adults. Cantrell's violent history was known to law enforcement and the facility, and attorneys argued that the facility failed to take any appropriate steps to treat Cantrell or the otherwise prevent the obvious danger that he posed to the public and to those living in close proximity. My God. The lawsuit also claims that New Hope did not have the proper license to be operating a mental health facility. What? And had no business housing mental health patients of any sort. What? Much less ones of this type of violent tendencies displayed by Cantrell. That's insane in itself that they legally shouldn't even have had people there like that. What? It also faults staff for failing to notice Andrea's disappearance for 3 days, which was allegedly only brought to their attention after the man accused of murdering him told them they should be concerned. The defendants are being sued for several claims, including negligence, gross negligence, and wrongful death. The plaintiffs offered to settle with the facility for $600,000, but they rejected the offer because they probably got that money. My God. What? I don't want to know more about the place now. Like, that's insane. A jury trial roster meeting for April 7th. Whoa, gotta keep an eye on that one. We got the fucking affidavit here. Holy shit, that's fucking crazy, dude. What is even happening? Like, everything's insane all the time, dude. Like, but I want to know a little bit more about how they're housing mental health patients and they don't even have the license to do so. Like, that's a
acrylic on her right thumbnail, correct?
Yes, I think I did.
And you indicated to Mr. Plord under questioning on direct examination that it was in your opinion that the thumbnail was likely, or the thumbnail being broken was consistent with her pushing the trigger and the associated recoil of a weapon, correct?
Yes.
All right. You can't say to any degree of medical certainty that's how that thumbnail broke, correct?
No, I cannot say with...
What the hell?
With certainty that that's how it happened, but I can say with certainty that I have seen this a fairly large number of times before, not with necessarily with acrylic fingernails, although I think I've seen that with acrylic fingernails too. Yeah, but I do know that I've seen it with regular nails.
Okay, but
I mean,
of course, I want to make sure that
endless at this point.
we're all
Dude,
on the
that's-
same page.
that-
You're not
that-
saying
that
you
isn't
weren't
even
suggesting
somehow
to
the
Mr.
worst thing I've seen
Plord-
today, actually.
Oh, no, no,
Like-
I know that
And I'm not
nail
even going to talk
broke
about the
on
other
trigger.
thing.
You're not
because
saying it.
Under the
I mean, oh my
circumstances
God.
of this case, when I put everything together, then
Also
it
dark.
fits into the puzzle.
Everybody's so broken.
To say to you, just based on the fingernail, that occurred from something other than the recoil, I would have to say it's possible, but it fits like a piece of a puzzle into the remainder of this case.
It fits the theory of the defense.
It's not the theory. It fits into the various items of this case.
But it also-
the various findings. You know, when you work in a puzzle, you don't know that there is a picture, and you don't know what the picture is until you put enough pieces together. And this is one piece that fits into that.
And of course, that piece of the puzzle, to use your metaphor, that piece of the puzzle could fit something else as well, correct? I.e., a struggle, for instance, or Lana Clarkson trying to slap the gun away, or Lana Clarkson struggling with Mr. Spector, who was armed with a gun. It would fit that as well. I mean, there's nothing inconsistent about that.
In order for it to comply with this theory that you have just advanced, you would have a lot of holes in that puzzle. Because yes, there are pieces, I've had this, because I like to do puzzles. If you put it together and there's a piece that came in there from somewhere else, it doesn't fit. You could make it fit if you push hard enough, but it doesn't fit. And in this case, you know, I've made a list here for myself yesterday after your
Doctor,
inquiry.
I'm not asking you about a list. I'm not
Okay.
asking you, I mean, we can talk
Okay,
about that,
but
whatever.
there
in a
is-
minute. All I'm
there-
asking you is if the nail, the broken nail,
Yes.
is consistent with being broken in a struggle, for instance.
Nails break in struggles.
Okay, so
But-
the answer is yes, then.
If you insist to asking me whether a nail can break in a struggle, yes.
Thank
in
you.
this case, it didn't break in a struggle.
Oh, you know that.
I know that because I said to you that the nail is not just consistent, it's highly likely. If a person holds a gun, there's recoil of the gun moves back and up, that a fingernail in that area where the movement occurs may break. And the fingernail really didn't break. The fingernail here is intact. I remember yesterday, or I think it was, where I said that the reason that the acrylic broke is because the acrylic has much less, if any, elasticity. It probably has some, but very little. Whereas the native fingernail has elasticity and would, if anything, if anything occurs to it, would be resilient. Would not, the fingernail will not break, whereas the acrylic will.
Doctor, I think we're all aware that we're talking about the acrylic portion of the fingernail.
Yes.
All right. What I'm asking you now is, in your expert forensic pathological pathologists, pathological, that was good. I thought I was going to be able to stop myself from saying that. In your expert forensic scientific opinion, you can say to a reasonable degree of medical certainty that Lana Clarkson's right acrylic nail chipped as a result of pulling the trigger on that gun. That's what your testimony is?
I'm saying that that's, in view of everything I know of this case, that's the most likely. I'm not saying it's 100%, but I'm saying it's the most likely.
And
And that's
there is
what
another
I said all
explanation.
along.
And that other explanation is, Dr. Spitz, that it broke in a struggle, correct?
I'm not saying to you that that's impossible.
That's a yes or no question, Doc.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Now, that's the physical evidence that you indicated to this jury that you base your opinion on. We've just gone over that in brief. There is other physical evidence in this case that you haven't mentioned to this jury, correct?
That I have
What
not
else you
mentioned.
hide?
Correct.
What else
If
is
you'd like
he
to
hide?
point it out to
I don't
me.
Sure,
trust
let's talk about that for just a second. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday. There's physical evidence that Lana Clarkson was killed in Philip Spector's house, correct?
Well, we talked about that yesterday.
And we're talking about it again
There's
today.
no doubt she died
have to ring
in
it?
Philip Spector's house.
And in fact, there's physical evidence that it was Spector's gun that was used.
We talked about that yesterday, too.
There was physical evidence that it was secured or secreted in Philip Spector's bureau, correct?
Assumes the fact not.
It's secured or secreted. I think it's a reasonable inference, so with that in mind, you can answer.
Is that correct?
Well, I know it was in a drawer. I don't know what kind of drawer it was.
There's physical evidence in this case that the gun was in Mr. Spector's holster, correct?
Like, could a witness be any
There's
more
physical
on one
evidence in this
side?
case
Like,
that the gun was
fuck.
loaded with Philip Spector's bullets, correct?
Yes.
There's physical evidence in this case that Lana Clarkson was unfamiliar with the house, correct?
Assumes the fact not.
Well, I don't know that that's physical evidence.
I may have overstated. There's evidence in this case that Lana Clarkson was a stranger to the house, correct?
Vegas to time and also assumes the fact not.
Overruled.
Well, let me say that in my understanding, this is the first time she was there.
There's evidence in this case that she was there by Philip Spector's invitation, correct?
That's my understanding.
If she was a stranger to the house, a reasonable inference, Dr. Spitz, would be that she would have no way of knowing where a gun was placed in the home.
Assumes facts not evidence. Assumes not physical evidence.
He didn't ask it was physical evidence. He's setting forth a series of facts from which I assume some questions are going to be asked. With that in mind, the objection is overruled.
Do you understand the question?
I understand the question, and my answer is that really it is not by no means a definitive conclusion that because she was there in his house that she
What if there's a part A to this?
necessarily
There's about 30 minutes left of it, though, so I'm going to get another brewski. Be right back.
did not know where the gun was, did not know
Thanks,
the
everyone, for
area,
hanging out.
the
We
lay
still
of
got
the
a will.
land. I mean, these are conclusions that maybe are so and maybe are not.
I'm asking you, is there evidence in any of the reports that you saw, is there any evidence that she knew her way around the foyer and knew that there was a gun in there? There is none, is there?
Well, but we don't. The fact that there isn't doesn't mean that they didn't.
Doctor, that's objection. This is non-responsive.
Sustained. Listen to the just a second. Listen to the question, please, and merely answer the question if you're able to. You may ask the question again.
Thank you. Is there any evidence in any of the reports that you read that suggests or that shows that Lana Clarkson knew her way around the foyer and knew her way around the house? There's not, is there?
No, there's no evidence to that, but there's no
Thank you.
evidence there to the contrary either.
Objection, non-responsive. Move to strike the last
The latter
portion.
portion is stricken as non-responsive.
There is evidence that Mr. Spector would know where his own guns in his own house would be. Correct? Reasonable conclusion.
Reasonable conclusion, yes.
There's evidence that there was only one drawer open in that foyer. Correct?
Yes.
There is physical evidence in this case that Lana Clarkson was fully clothed. Correct?
Objection, Vegas to time.
Overruled.
At the time that
There's
she was
physical
killed.
evidence that Lana Clarkson was fully clothed.
Fully clothed at the time she was killed.
Yes.
There's physical evidence that she had her jacket on, for instance.
Yes.
There's physical evidence that she had her shoes on.
Yes.
There's physical evidence that she had her purse on her shoulder.
Yes.
There's physical evidence that she was seated in that chair that we've seen so many times now, right by the back door. Correct?
Yes.
There's also physical evidence that she was immediately incapacitated. She couldn't get up and move around.
Yes.
There's physical evidence that there is blood on the doorknob. Correct?
Yes.
There's evidence that that blood on the doorknob came from your client, Mr. Spector. Correct?
My client?
Mr. Spector.
Yes.
There's physical evidence that there is blood on the latch bolt. Yes?
On the what?
The latch bolt.
Yes.
There is evidence in your mind.
And I told
that
Cassie
blood
about that crazy
was put
South
there
Carolina
by
story
Mr.
also.
Spector.
Like, what?
Correct?
I would presume so, yes.
There's physical evidence that there was blood on the banister.
Yes.
The evidence in your mind is that Mr. Spector put the blood on the banister.
Probably.
When you say probably, do you mean that it's...
I wasn't there, but the likelihood is there.
Well, I mean, well, doctor, you
There
don't
were
think...
only two people there, so,
And one of them was dead.
yes,
Right.
exactly.
So who put the blood on the banister?
Well, theoretically, that's true, but there were...
I missed
there
it, dude. He's the
were,
best, bro.
A whole bunch of people in the premises, so
Yeah,
I doubt
getting-
that any one of them...
I was about to say, she said it's about Missy coming through here. All right, had to get me a rum drink. It's my Friday. I was about to say, that's a little early, getting early and going, baby. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be fun. I'm excited to hang out with Mo on a Feral Friday.
Blood there, but the possibility is there.
All right, based on your review of all the evidence in this case and the police reports that talk about them seeing the blood on the banister when they
Right.
got there and the photographs that were taken and all the documents that were done about that, reasonably, who put the blood on the
I
banister?
agree with you.
Who would that be?
I suppose Mr. Spector put it.
All right. There is physical evidence that Mr. Spector removed some of his clothing after Lana Clarkson was killed, correct?
I don't know if you call that removed some of his clothing.
Took his jacket off
He took his jacket off.
upstairs, correct?
Upstairs, yes.
Is a jacket clothing?
Well, yes, it's clothing, but I mean, when you say he took his clothing off, that sounds ominous.
I didn't say he took his clothing off. I asked you, is there evidence that he took some of his clothing off? Or
Well,
removed some of his
exactly. That
clothing?
Dude is
sounds
so
ominous to me.
worried about saying the
Maybe
wrong
unproved,
fuck.
I
I've
don't
never
know,
seen anything
but,
this-
not disproved.
Did
But
This is ridiculous.
he took his jacket off. That's a different. That I would not classify that as taking his clothing off.
classified as taking some of his clothing off, correct?
Okay.
Jesus.
There is physical evidence that a diaper was retrieved after Lana Clarkson was killed, correct?
Yes.
Who retrieved the diaper?
Who retrieved it?
Who retrieved it? Who got the diaper and began to use it in the house?
I suppose Mr. Spector.
You're aware that the diaper was wetted. We talked about that just a second ago, correct?
Yes.
That's physical
Stop
evidence,
saying wetted.
correct?
Well,
It's
that's
upsetting my
his evidence.
chest.
All right. And in fact, that diaper would have been wetted by by Mr. Spector, correct?
Yes.
There's physical evidence that Lana Clarkson's face was wiped, correct?
Yes.
There's physical evidence that the gun had blood on it, correct?
The gun had blood on it. Yes.
There's physical evidence that the blood on the gun was moved or removed, correct?
He's got to think real hard.
I don't know about
You don't
that.
want to.
There's physical
Contradict
evidence
any of his
that,
earlier statements.
There was blood in Mr. Spector's pocket, correct?
Yes.
And you're also aware of evidence that during the 40 minutes between the time the gunshot went off, but between the time Lana Clarkson was killed and by the time the police got there, during that 40-minute or however long that was, I think you said you
look at
weren't
my
aware of
shirt.
that,
Oh, my
but assume
merch
from
thing
purposes of my question that it was 40 minutes, that Mr. Spector
Yeah.
never called for help.
Hit this guy,
You're aware of that,
guys.
correct?
If anybody uses QR codes,
I don't
got
know.
some
I
new
didn't.
awesome
I
merch
don't know
in the
about
shop.
that.
Did you consider that fact in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
No, I did not consider that.
All right. You were never told that by the defense, I'm
it's about
assuming.
as it's,
I may
it's
have
about
been.
the
I
same.
don't
Yeah,
remember
it's like
that.
the same
You
level
were given,
of.
as a matter of fact, your opinions and conclusions in this case
disgusting.
that you're providing are subject to the information that you've been provided by the defense.
And that is reams of.
No, he just. I don't know why there were diapers there. That's a whole nother can of worms. But no, he did use a diaper to clean up Lana some and wipe his hands off.
All right. But you're not sure if you were ever told that Mr. Spector
Oh, yeah, it
never
could be
called
used
an
for a
ambulance,
rag. Or
never
maybe
called
he
for
likes
help,
kinky,
never
weird
called the
baby
police,
play. I don't
never
know.
dialed 911.
It seems like
you
he
don't know
might.
if you
He
were ever
looks-
told that.
He literally looks like a fucking weird dude from this movie, this Italian film that plays a child in the movie, but also the director. It's a fucked up movie. Like, it's really fucked up.
I don't remember if I was told that or not, but I can only say that I almost think that I've read that in the records.
All right. And you're aware, of course, we talked about this just a second ago, that Mr. Spector had Lana Clarkson's blood in his pocket, or pockets.
In
correct?
his one pocket, yes.
Okay. And you're also aware that Mr. Spector had blood on his jacket?
On the left side of his white jacket.
Well, and on a couple of the
On,
sleeves.
on, and on the wipes, there were wipes on the sleeves.
There was blood on his jacket, correct?
There was blood on his jacket.
Whose blood was that?
The deceased, Lana Clarkson.
And there's also evidence that Mr. Spector made a statement directly after the gunshot was fired. You're aware of that, correct?
Yes.
And that statement was what?
He made a statement to the Alhambra police.
He made a statement to the driver.
To the driver, yes.
Correct. Directly after the shot was fired.
Oh, that statement, yes.
Do you know what that statement was?
That statement was something to the effect, I think I killed somebody.
All right. Those are items of evidence that you didn't mention to the jurors when you said you considered the physical evidence in this case and made a determination and a conclusion that Lana Clarkson pulled the trigger, not Philip Spector, correct?
Well, I considered as evidence those items that pertain directly to the shooting and not statements that were made, because, first of all, statements are subject to variation. I've seen a lot of, in fact, I've just testified in a case where 4 people have made statements, all of which were wrong in regards to a rape homicide.
I'm asking you about all of the things that I just went over, that litany of things. All I'm asking you, Doctor, you didn't mention any of those things when you told this jury what you based your opinion on. Is that right or wrong?
Misstates you talked about physical evidence.
Yeah, a bunch of mail dropping. That's what I'm talking about.
Sure, I'll rephrase it. When you mentioned the physical evidence that you relied on,
Always working on my list.
conclusions, none of what I've talked about, that litany, that list of things that I just talked about or asked you about, you didn't mention any of those
My next wave's got
things
some Ireland
in your
mail,
list of
some
physical
Australian
evidence
mail.
that you relied on to this jury, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
And the reason I did not do that is because they are the facts there, the fact that she is in his house, does not change my opinion. None of these items change my opinion or are even able to somewhat sway my opinion.
That's actually a good question. Does anything that I've just talked about have any impact on your opinion whatsoever?
No, they don't.
Okay. Did you consider, or do you think it's important to consider, because you've mentioned 2 or 3 times in passing that there were only 2 people in the room, correct?
There were only 2 people in the room, both able to pull the trigger, and one did and one didn't.
Correct. So in light of that, Dr. Spitz, it would obviously be very important for a forensic pathologist in coming to a conclusion or opinion to maintain a level of objectivity and independence about what happened inside the foyer. You've got to look at all the facts, correct?
If you look at all the facts objectively, Mr. Jackson, I think you would.
Your thoughts about what I would do are absolutely irrelevant. I'm not asking you what you think I would do, all right? I'm asking you a simple question. Is it important?
Overruled.
Is it important, Dr. Spitz, for a forensic pathologist, an independent, objective forensic pathologist, to look at all the
Hell
evidence
yeah.
before coming to a conclusion, just in
Oh
general?
yeah, you ordered that. That's
I believe
right.
that that's correct.
That's
Given
right.
the fact
Hell
that
yeah.
there were 2 people in the room, you looked
Appreciate
at Lana
that.
Clarkson's background, or at least part of
I
her
bet it looks good.
background,
Take a picture
in
of
coming
that.
to your conclusions,
If you don't
correct?
mind. I wanna
That
see it.
background was provided to you by the defense, is that right?
Yes.
Did you, in fact, look at Mr. Spector's background and his history in coming to your conclusions and
I'm
opinions?
aware that, and we discussed that yesterday, I'm aware that there were, in the past, some number of years preceding that, there were some episodes which I classified yesterday as unusual and maybe stupid. But does that reflect on this case? Because that happened, I should immediately jump to the conclusion, in the presence or absence of the physical findings, the
think we'll hit a
scientific
year.
findings, in this case, that there
I'll start
is
doing 3 days a
continuation
week.
of a previous set of
Sometimes I get
series
bored of it.
incidences, that this
This
is
has
one
just been
like the
entertaining.
one
This
in the
has been
past. I cannot do
good.
that.
Let's talk about those incidences for
Sometimes
a
it
second.
makes me like,
Are you aware that in July 1993,
It's
in
been a brutal
Pasadena,
one. Like, it's been fun. I don't regret it, but man, it's long.
Philip
Like, if we ever do
Spector,
another long
after a night
OJ
of
maybe
drinking
in the
with Dorothy
deep future,
Melvin,
but I want to
was
get
found
a
pointing
normal-ish
a
one
handgun
next.
at her car. When she confronted him, he turned around and backhanded her with the gun in hand. Then at gunpoint, ordered her, by the way, it was a revolver, ordered her into the house. When she tried to leave, he refused to let her leave, ordered her to disrobe, and then at one point, finally allowed her to leave, again at gunpoint. She jumps into the car, tries to drive down the driveway, and then Philip Spector again follows her with yet a second gun, this time a shotgun, in a threatening manner. Are you aware of that incident?
Yes, I'm aware of it.
What's the objection?
Sims facts, not in evidence, also argument.
The objections are overruled.
You're aware of that
Let's
incident?
not act like he didn't
Are
do
you
any
aware
of
of an
that.
incident
How
in
about
January
that?
of 1995
How about
at
that?
the Carlisle Hotel in New York with Stephanie Jennings, wherein Mr. Spector, again, had been drinking throughout the evening, had become inebriated. When Stephanie Jennings refused to go to his hotel room,
He's getting bored.
an argument ensued.
Yeah, I could go
When
for
she
a-
decided she
a
wanted
nice,
to leave, he walked away, pulled a handgun, what she
What does
believes
that
to be
drink?
a
Fuck.
revolver,
I have a
then held her at gunpoint and wouldn't let her leave
Grog,
the hotel
Navy
room
grog. I need a
finally
nice
until the
Navy
police were
grog.
called, as he was waving the gun and pointing it at her in a threatening manner and ranting and raving. Are you aware of that incident as
Yes,
well?
we discussed that yesterday, and you even asked me whether I have done that, and I told you, no, I haven't done that. I've been married for 45 years.
Are you
and
aware
God
of-
help me.
Are you aware of that
if
incident?
I did that. I'm sorry?
Are you aware of that incident?
I'm going to object. Can I just have a continuing objection?
Yes, you may.
We have gone through this
You can't
yesterday,
answer the
and I
damn
told you what
question.
my opinion was about these cases.
Are you aware of a 1988 incident involving Diane Ogden here in California, wherein Mr. Spector, actually there's two incidents involving Diane Ogden. The first one involved Mr. Spector drinking.
I got there.
Diane Ogden wanted to leave the house. She actually put her purse on her arm and walked toward the foyer of
Baby's
that
against
particular
OJ.
house. The
Always
defendant
get
forced
told
her at
you should watch
gunpoint to
OJ.
sit down and would not let her leave.
But it is, man.
While
That
he
shit's
had
long,
her
like,
seated there
kinda
with her
stuck with
purse
it.
on her arm, Dr. Spitz, he began pressing
bad about
a
leaving this one,
revolver
you know?
to different
We're deep.
parts of her face.
We're committed.
Head, neck, cheeks, lips, nose. Finally, at one point, he let her go, and she left. And then 2 weeks later, the same type of incident began to happen. He had been drinking. She wanted to leave. She expressed her desire to leave. And this
Uh-oh,
time, he
Oasis.
pulled what she described as an Uzi
not wanting
and
it
chased
either.
her out to her car, began banging on the window on the car until she drove away. Are
Yeah,
you
we'll
aware
find a
of those
good one.
incidents?
I got
I'm
two
aware
here.
of
We'll
it.
definitely be doing a voting
And finally,
system,
are you aware
so
of an incident in
everybody will be a part of
1992 involving Melissa Grosvenor at Mr. Spector's
Whenever we
Pasadena
get there.
house after a night where Mr. Spector had been drinking? She wanted to leave.
see if we can get there by summer, huh?
He pulled out a gun, pointed it at her, got directly in her face, pointing the gun directly at her forehead about 2 inches away, forced her to sit down in a chair, and forced her to sit in that chair all night long at gunpoint until finally the next morning she was allowed to leave. Are you aware of that incident as well?
Yes.
Did you consider, Dr. Spitz,
Like, I was there.
Mr. Spector's history of violence with women, history of violence involving guns, history of violence involving drinking and women and guns when you rendered
Can't
your
believe this
conclusions
jury-
and opinions in this case?
Didn't find
I
him guilty.
considered all these episodes and considered the rest of the evidence and came to my conclusion.
And you considered these, ignored them for purposes of your conclusion, and then rendered the opinions that you gave us yesterday, correct?
That misstates the evidence.
It does. The way the question was phrased, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Notwithstanding the fact that you
All about
considered
that phrasing
all of this
for old
violent
Alan
history
Jackson.
on the part
He's
of the
good at it.
defendant, the fact that Lana Clarkson was a stranger to the home, the fact that she was a woman alone, the fact that Mr. Spector had been drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking throughout the night, the fact that she was seated in a chair by the back door with her purse on her shoulder, and she was shot with Philip Spector's gun out of Philip Spector's drawer in Philip Spector's foyer with Philip Spector's bullets. Notwithstanding all of that, the totality of the circumstances, your opinion is she committed suicide. Is that correct?
My opinion is that I wouldn't say that she committed suicide. I would say that she shot herself.
And yesterday, Dr. Spitz, you agreed, did you not, that if in fact the physical evidence showed that Philip Spector was close enough to have fired the gun, you would have to re-evaluate that opinion, correct?
I'd have to and I did reevaluate it, and I'd like to read you how I reevaluated
I'm not asking you to read me anything. I'm asking you if yesterday, just harken back to yesterday, if yesterday you testified, in fact, that if Philip Spector was close enough to have fired the weapon, if the physical evidence suggested that, you would need to reevaluate your opinion as a forensic pathologist, correct? Is that what you testified to yesterday?
I did indeed,
Thank
and
you.
I did.
That's all.
And I did reevaluate my conclusions.
No question pending.
And I did come
Excuse me,
to the conclusion
sir.
that my opinion
Sir.
as
Hey,
originally
no, there's no.
rendered is correct.
It's over.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
It's over.
Just to follow up on that, Dr. Spitz, I believe if I understood Mr. Jackson's questions yesterday, that if you assume for purposes of the question that something is true, that Mr. Spector was within 2 feet or arm's reach of Lana Clarkson, would you reevaluate your opinion? In other words, he asked you to assume that fact to be true. Do you remember that being the question? Okay, he didn't tell you what other assumptions you need to make or not make, but based on the physical evidence in this particular case, did you look at that and then reevaluate your opinion?
Well, there's no support that he was within arm's reach, or that he held the gun, or that he was, with the exception of one speck of gunpowder on one of his sleeves, that was confirmed to be gunpowder, which could have been very easily contamination. With the exception of that, there is absolutely no support to that.
Okay.
In fact, there's support to the contrary.
Okay, well, let's go into that then. You were asked to assume that he was, let's say, within 2 feet. Let's just say 2 feet, which is pretty close. That's basically 24 inches. Just assume that fact to be true. If you assume that fact to be true, along with all the other physical evidence.
I've enjoyed the break from Rosen.
Is your testimony that
I always say
your
both
opinion would
names
be
of
the
them.
same,
Can't
whether it
remember
was
which
2
one it is.
feet, 4 feet, 6 feet away?
He has no support.
Oh my
for
God,
that
dude, I've been
in
giving him
terms
hell,
of,
bro.
Blood, gunpowder residue, but
yeah, I've
the
looked
same,
into his fucking past, dude. The JFK
evidence
shit's
is
insane.
present on her. So
Which he
since
brought
it's
up.
present on the deceased, it should be present on him, but it's not present on him.
Okay, I want to go through that, and I want to now first, well, let me ask you this, is part of the evidence that you looked at, Mr. Jackson talked about blood on Mr. Spector's jacket. Did you look at specifically where the blood was on his jacket?
Yes, the blood was on the spatter blood was on the left panel of his jacket over I suppose 2 feet space, maybe 18 inches, I'm not sure, something about like that. And on the sleeve there was wiping.
Okay, let's
Yeah, I would definitely argue that in this one, after watching 7 parts of this guy, that he's going to say whatever Phil Spector wants him to say.
I ask if you could take a look at this particular photograph.
I went from liking him a lot to being like, what the fuck's even happening? No, let me fix the fajitas.
V to the 9th.
Old field, man. Oh. Dude, they never let Cutler get back up there again. Nope. You're gonna.
Spitz, do you recognize?
It didn't go good, dude, but he was so entertaining, dude. I broke a clip out of him that was insane, dude. He literally said he gets possessed.
All right, do you recognize?
He's like, I get possessed, when the judge just kept telling him to calm the fuck down. Like, dude, you have to chill the hell out.
This as being an exhibit that was testified.
Because he was so animated and so theatrical. That's what I knew that I loved Judge Dowhard. I was like, whoa. Calling that shit
Stuart
out,
James.
son.
Yes.
And you mentioned in some of the answers you gave to Mr. Jackson that you were familiar with Stuart James. You actually read a joint report that he authored.
Chris, you got to come through and watch Angus tomorrow, man.
Kish.
I do.
I'm excited to hang out with Mo.
And you also talked with Mr.
I haven't seen that
James
movie in
about
so
this jacket,
freaking
is that
long.
correct?
Yes, I did.
And did he tell you that this was his diagram where he put whether something was a spatter versus a smear?
Yes, if you try.
That's your sir.
Just want to think about something for a second. Sustain.
I want you to assume for purpose of this question that this is a jacket and this diagram was prepared by Stuart James, a blood spatter expert, and that that it was true that on the right sleeve that's shown here, that there were no blood spatters as shown on the front portion of this jacket on the right sleeve.
That's correct.
Okay. Is that your understanding from the evidence in this case?
That's the
well-groomed
understanding that I
view.
have.
And as to the left sleeve, that the blood stains were transfer stains and that there were no blood spatters on the left sleeve.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, if we could have the exhibit X to the 9th. And was it your understanding that on the back of the left sleeve that there were no blood spatters?
Yes, that's correct.
And on the right sleeve, below the elbow, there were no blood spatters. There was only a transfer stain.
The transfer stain on each side.
And that there was one blood spatter on the above the elbow. And if we could have this highlighted, as it was described as 19H. Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And is it your, if you assume those facts to be true, would it be inconsistent for that person, given the fact that you know that there was blood spatter based upon the blood spatter that was emitted from Miss Clarkson when the gun was fired, is that piece of physical evidence consistent with the person wearing that jacket firing the gun?
Yes.
But Spitz is 100%. Werner Spitz has been my favorite.
Consistent with
First
I mean, there's
of all,
been some
there's
good
an
ones,
objection
man.
pending. I want to hear the objection so I can rule on it. Go ahead.
My objection is foundation on cross-examination. The
Dude,
doctor
he's
clearly
been-
indicated he is not
this
a
has been
backspatter expert.
entertaining as
I'm
fuck.
asking you to
Like,
assume those facts to be true for purposes of this question.
He was asked for
Well-
an opinion.
Hold a second. You can ask the facts, and then before you answer, you pause, and we'll see whether or not.
No, they
an objection
did.
is
Yeah,
well
he
taken. Go ahead and
he
finish
went to
your question.
the next
Let
one.
me
They
ask
get
you
him,
this question,
and I think
Dr.
2009.
Spitz.
Yeah, he goes to prison.
Was
He
it
died
your
in prison in
understanding
2021.
that the way I
2020 and
described
2021 of COVID.
the spatters on the jacket, as far as the
No,
right
they
arm
got
and the
him.
left arm, was the way that
It's crazy.
the jacket
But the
was
second
found,
one
as far
isn't
as
even
whether
on
it
court
had
TV. It's
transfer
not.
stains or
I guess it
spatters.
wasn't broadcast or
Is
whatever.
that, in your opinion, consistent with Mr. Spector firing the gun while wearing that jacket?
Objection. No foundation. He is not a spatter expert.
I'll allow, however, he can still offer an opinion. I'll allow him to answer the question. He may answer.
With regards, you're asking me whether the transfer stains on the sleeves
LS is like,
are consistent
I'm done with
with
at the
firing
diapers.
the
I'm
gun.
out.
The
Fuck
the
this guy.
stains on the sleeves, yes.
That's hilarious.
Whatever
The
they are.
stains on the sleeve show transfer stains on both sleeves, on the back of both sleeves, and a blood spatter
Dude,
on
even using
the
cloth
back
diapers.
of
Fuck.
the
Like, what
right
the-
arm.
I guess you
back
reuse
here.
them?
And this suggests to me that his arm was raised at the time, like I'm showing you now, like I'm doing across my face.
Yeah, see, thanks for that share on that new post. I appreciate that.
Is it consistent with him firing
Get
the
that
gun?
thing
piece
out
of
No, it's
there.
not. Okay.
Is that, did you consider that
I consider that, yes.
as part of all the
That's
physical?
that's why I'm suggesting to you that he
Dude,
did
that's crazy.
fire the gun.
And that's part of the physical evidence that you considered along with all the other physical evidence?
That's part of the evidence, physical evidence
wonder if
that I
that's been a long time.
considered.
Be like, how did you find me? Like, I'm media. Listen, I have a
Dr.
show.
Spitz, with reference to
We have a drink. And we'll ask you
all of the
some-
facts that
some
Mr.
shit.
Jackson talked about you talked about
I'd put my professional
when
hat
you
on.
do your work as a forensic pathologist, you take all the facts or circumstances into consideration, and then you come to a conclusion. You mentioned that sometimes statements are not.
We got a wheel to spin here,
conclusive.
guys, right after
What's your
this.
experience with that? Why do you make that
Well,
claim?
because people make
but
statements
it's still a will.
that turn out to be either interpretable in different ways or that they aren't true. They feel guilty about something or other, then they make statements. But the statements does not implicate them as the culprit in the case.
In other words, the physical evidence and the other circumstances.
Exculpates them. The physical evidence shows that what he just stated may be true in some fictitious way, but physically this didn't happen.
Were you aware of in addition to the statements that Mr. Jackson talked to you about, that the driver said something about him having a problem with English as part of his explanation of what he heard?
I understand that that may be a possibility.
Okay. Essentially, if you just accepted a statement and then concluded and made a finding of manner of death, would that be something that would be consistent with your obligation as a medical examiner if you just accepted the statement?
We wouldn't need medical examiners then. If you take statements, there are statements made in most every case.
Now, if I understand your testimony, Dr. Spitz, when you first were retained, it was a number of years ago by Mr. Shapiro, is that correct?
Yes.
And you were given a whole bunch of materials, a mountain of materials, case materials, transcripts, photos, et cetera, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and your billing and your time that you've spent on this case is partially devoted to looking through all that, is that correct?
Yes.
And you bill for all that time from the time you first started till now, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and basically, before you started, did you have an opinion as to whether this was a homicide or a suicide, a self-inflicted wound, an accident, or anything such as that? Before you looked at that material?
Started?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Did you have an opinion based upon the fact that you were hired by attorneys that represent Mr. Spector, that you were going to come to a particular conclusion?
No.
And if the
Absolutely
physical
not.
evidence showed that this was an accident, you would have come to that opinion if that were the case, is that correct?
No, that is
Also speculation of what he might do.
No, I believe he's just, as to his mindset is what the question is. The objections are overruled.
Before you saw the materials and the evidence, did you have an opinion as to whether this was an accident, a homicide, or a suicide? Any of
No,
them?
I did not.
Okay. Now, when you looked at the materials, you knew that from the physical evidence that there was evidence that this was an inside-the-mouth gunshot wound. Is that correct?
That is true.
And there's absolutely no question about that, correct?
There's no question about it.
If that's the only thing that you knew, the only thing, you knew nothing else, would you be able to make a determination that this was a self-inflicted wound if there was no other evidence at all? None?
I would conclude that this is likely or probably a self-inflicted wound based on statistics, but that needs to be confirmed in other ways.
Meaning you need to look at the physical
I
evidence.
need to look at everything before I can come to that definitive conclusion.
And you did that in this particular case, and you've actually come to an opinion to, the way you phrase it, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as a pathologist that this was a self-inflicted wound.
That's my opinion.
I want to go through some of the facts and circumstances. Do all the facts and circumstances weigh equally? In other words, one fact, one circumstance, do they all count for the same thing, or do you kind of weigh them and give one or more?
No, there are findings which have more weight and others which have less weight, significantly less weight.
Okay. Now, you were talking with Mr. Jackson yesterday when he asked you that hypothetical question. He asked you to reevaluate it if you assumed that Mr. Spector was within 2 feet of Ms. Clarkson when the shot was fired. He asked you to assume that to be true, and you did reevaluate it, and you said that you kind of made some notes as to why you came to the same opinion after you went through that reevaluation process. Can you explain what you did and what reasons you give for that particular
Well, I made a
opinion?
list, like I usually do when I evaluate any case. I make a list of what the probabilities are or what the major findings are.
Okay.
And the major findings are that there's no blood spatter below the elbows in Mr. Spector, on Mr. Spector's jacket.
Okay. That's
no
a fact.
blood spatter stains.
Okay.
There's no blood spatter.
I'm sad we're not gonna get another
on the
round to him and
right side
Jackson,
of
though,
Mr.
honestly.
There's only blood spatter
That was
on
fun. That
the
was
left,
crazy.
so that the left side was
Yeah,
exposed.
Alan Jackson and him got
to,
into pretty much screaming matches.
Miss
Got real
Clarkson's,
spicy. Good thing there was a ref there.
face, as
Judge
I
Dowhard was
described
ready to
earlier.
jump in like,
In my
"Listen,
opinion, at least
motherfuckers."
part of that, if not all of it, because it's all in a limited space, is or could have been sustained by her coughing this blood up, coughing or expelling it from the oral cavity. The single spatter on the back of the right upper arm. Could have come there in one of several ways, but one way is that the arm was exposed by raising the arm across his face, like I'm showing now.
Okay.
The spatter, by the way, was somewhere here.
Above the elbow on the back.
Above the elbow in the back.
Is that inconsistent with somebody firing a gun
Objection.
with their right hand?
Objection. It's calls for, there's no foundation for it. He's not a backspatter expert.
No, but he has made and used certain things to form his opinion. It goes to the weight of his opinion as opposed to whether he can offer the opinion. I'm going to allow him to answer.
It is consistent with him.
Dude, it is, man. This thing's
not holding
this has
the
been
gun
the craziest
because
trial.
Not firing the gun.
Just because of
Holding
the
gun, I don't know,
weirdness.
but,
So many things. There's a side trial
and at
inside
what
this
time?
trial that's been
But
happening.
At the time of discharge, his gun was not, his hand was not the one that fired it, because otherwise I'd fail to see how that spatter would come there.
Okay, and is it also your understanding that Mr. Spector is right-handed?
That's my understanding.
Okay, continue on with your list then.
There's no gunpowder residue or particles of gunpowder on the white jacket. We already discussed that. There's no gunpowder residue
It's
on the
back
shirt.
here behind. Oh,
that
it's
he was
literally right
wearing.
behind me with the hat on it. You see it?
There's no blood
That's right
spatter
there.
on the pants.
On the couch.
No
back
burnt
of the
or
couch,
unburned
right there.
gunpowder
Next
on
to
the pants.
the bone
No tissue on the
with the
pants.
sunglasses on it.
No tissue or blood spatter that I'm aware of in the cuffs of the
yeah,
pants.
he does.
No.
Holy shit, dude. He really
evidence
does.
of blood spatter
Holy
on
fuck, I gotta get a
the
picture.
shoes or socks. No gunpowder residue
Oh my god.
in the ears, in the ear canals. No gunpowder residue in the
What is happening?
nostrils, that is in the nose.
Oh my god.
I need clarification. It's not an objection.
There's
Oh
no,
my god.
he's just giving his answer.
Let me hear what he's saying, and then I'll rule on it. Go ahead.
Clarification, ear canals of whom?
I think the bottom line is you can ask that on recross. He's simply, he's giving the basis of what his opinion is. All right. At this point, we're going to break for the noon hour. Keep
Oh
in
my
mind the
God.
admonition,
That's
ladies
so
and gentlemen, 1:30 this afternoon.
Dude, there's gonna be another part. There is. There's a part 8. Holy shit! How long is part 8? He's been up here for weeks. Part 8 is another hour. Holy shit! We're on video 169 of like 230 some. So we're still in there. We'll probably hit a freaking year, man. This is a real life 6-monther in a streaming weekly usually year boy. My God. All right, tomorrow night I'm gonna spin a wheel, but tomorrow night I got Mo coming in here from Mo in the Deep End. She's been on before. We've done some cool streams, but I think tomorrow's gonna be really cool. First time she's coming on for Feral Friday, and then Sunday I got a really cool show happening after the next Murder Church, which will be more spits. But Jack from Never a Truer Word's going to come back for part 2 of the Manson interview analysis. That was so freaking fun last Sunday. We got cut short because of the time stuff was going on. He had a debut going on his channel, but that hour with him went by so quick, and we have so much more of that video left. So that's probably going to be like a 2-hour stream Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, man. Got some cool stuff going on. All right. Good luck, everybody. This is for some trinkets. This is for the Holy Trinity, the keychain, and the maggot. Good luck. I think it's orange. I think it's the orange one. Jennifer J. Is Jennifer in here? Holy shit, Jennifer. Congratulations. She getting the loot, son. She getting some of that. Hold on, let me get her down here in the winner circle. Bop, 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 bop. Ba, 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 ba. Right here. Boom, boom, boom. Jennifer J. Holy Trinity. Maggot. Keychain. Bada bing, bada boom. Hell yeah. Look it back up because I feel like I have Jennifer J. maybe needing something else, but maybe not. What an awesome night, though. Thanks, everyone, for coming the fuck through here. Jennifer getting in that son of a bitch. That's what I'm talking about. Yo, Life Artist, what's happening? Getting in here as well. We're about to close up shop, but tomorrow night, please come through, everybody. Feral Friday. We're going to start here on YouTube. Have a good time. Yeah, we're going to be watching Angus, the 1995 film, which Chris Dewitt is very familiar with. I did not know that his name on X was a reference to that. What is that again? I've never forgot the word. I don't even remember. I could go look at it. Hold on. But his name on X is a reference from that movie, and I was like, what the hell? Bethune theory. The Bethune theory. And then I went and looked up the Bethune theory, the clip from that movie, and it was pretty freaking deep. But the movie looks awesome. It looks fun. I've seen it, but it's literally been freaking since I rented that movie in the 90s. Probably like 1996 or 97 when I was fucking like 10 or 11. But I remember enjoying it. And it's one of Mo's favorite movies. She picked it out, and I'm excited. It's going to be cool. Tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on YouTube. Then we're going to head over to Kick for a few hours and, again, watch Angus. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Nice. Yeah, thanks, everyone, for coming through here tonight. No, there was no Will Kate. It was close, but I'm pretty sure that was into the orange there. The wig is right behind me. It's right back there. In my little collection of things back there. All right, everybody. Thank y'all so much. Have a great rest of your evening. Have a great Friday. Let's kick its ass before we get in here for Feral Friday. And, yeah, let's go. Boom. Let's go. Boom. Have a good one.